generation that a lot of the guilt is also the subtext of religion. See, religion rules without relationship leads to rebellion, and it's birthed out of religion. Because see, religion doesn't build in your relationship. Religion just lays before you the rules. And so, this is wrong, do this, do that. And so, when you are not like the freedom that you have about, that I don't feel guilt, I don't feel these things. A lot of times when you are raised in these religious spaces, it can be birthed out of guilt. Like in my generation, one of the biggest, and Dave, you may have heard this coming from the South, coming you both from the South, is that, there was a time that even church evangelism was, come to Jesus so you don't go to hell. Am I lying, King?
That's what I was about to say.
Hold on, King. That's a hell of a way to start off a relationship. Marry me because I'm pregnant. That's a horrible, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not being built on love. It's like fear. And so, like, nobody should get married just because, like, there may not be legitimate relationships, but there's always legitimate children. So that child is gonna be blessed whether y'all get married or not. You know what I'm saying? You don't get married feeling like this is the only way we're gonna honor God. Like, God ain't gonna hate you if you don't get married.
I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, are you happy? He was like, no, not really. He said, but the light's on, you're fed, your mama not screaming and hollering. He said, I'm at peace. So I started learning that as far as the guilt, I go to my therapist, I sit down, talk on the couch.
Man, in therapy.
You
have 3 black
and a lot of the stuff that we learned, and we have to admit this, a lot of the stuff, especially black people, that's disconnected from their history, from their true spirituality, what we naturally were as human beings on this earth, we're still trying to relearn. And some of the stuff that we learned is lies, and they're wrong. That's why I was telling you, I'm so proud of you saying some of the stuff that you saying, bro. It's bold, and it's breaking all of that muck that we have on us. Most of that trauma was passed down from our parents and from older people who didn't know better. They gave us the best that they possibly could have, but that don't mean that it's right.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's right.
Facts.
All right, when I was listening to some of these things, I'm coming to you, Viz. One of the things that I think that we today should factor in is that just because we were told that doesn't mean that it's right. You have to be able to look at the information that we receive and be able to make sense of it. Sometimes people tell you things and you don't understand why you're doing it. You're just doing it because it was told to you. So you have to get a clear understanding as to why you are moving the way you move, why you have these principles, why you shouldn't do this, why you should do this. Something else I think that was also said too was like, how do we know what's right and wrong? And this kind of takes us to the conversation. We're going to have a fantastic show on King Talk. It's been a lot of back and forth about the conversation of situationships. And also we were discussing about who's responsible, if men are responsible for telling their sons the wrong thing, and is it creating the problem that the men complain about today? So we do have a King chat group, and it's a lot of fellas that disagree. So we're going to revisit this conversation this Tuesday. I believe this is going to be epic, and I'm going to make sure that it is very controlled. But this is a conversation that I think even some of you ladies might want to participate in. When I say participate, I mean just watch it, because there's a lot of things may just be open about how men think and if this could be the root of the problem. But one of the questions that was posed on that last show was like, where do we get what's right and what's wrong? Some people have a 1 foot in and 1 foot out when it comes to the Bible. Some people use Bible principles when it's necessary for them to prove their point, and then the rest of it, they just throw it out because they want to do what it is that they want to do. I think he made something that was interesting too, because he said that religion doesn't make relationships, but it just highlights the rules. What did he say with that? Did you guys hear that part?
Yeah, I heard him say it, but I don't remember what he said exactly though.
Yeah, which kind of makes me think that you don't have to like the Bible, but understand that it does have some principles that apply. And so even if you hear some of these principles and it makes sense, then they're just principles. You don't have to follow it, but logic makes sense. If it's logical and it makes sense, then I don't know why you wouldn't factor that in. You don't have to believe in it, but just put it up in your toolbox or your tool bag, and then you may be able to use some of those things. But let's go ahead and open it up. Go ahead, Viz.
Yeah, I had wanted to address David Banner's first statement too. To me, and I don't know if anyone else heard this, but to me, it sounded like he may be or may have been running from something. Because the only way that you would look up and say, damn, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. That goes back to the conversation that we had last week, where if you are placing yourself in solitude for a very long time, and you have your reasoning because maybe everybody is asking you for money, or you keep dealing with the wrong woman, so now you place yourself in solitude, you now become comfortable there. And you actually don't want to be there, but out of you being comfortable and feeling safe, being comfortable in that manner, that now becomes the norm for you, in which you actually don't want, if that makes sense. Just like Mistaken said, just as scripture tells us, man should not be alone. So yeah, we can go a period of time in solitude, in which you should, because you're able to truly find yourself, speak to your inner self, speak to God, develop that relationship. But we're literally built and made to be here to interact with people as a society. So when you take that away, how much of a disservice are you doing, not only to yourself, but also to young men like me, where I may have been able to see David Banner as my cousin, right? Maybe he's my cousin. And the only time that I get to see him is at the barbecue. But every time I see him, I'm like, man, Dave cool as hell, compared to you not even going to the cookout or the barbecue or whatever, so that you can be exposed to young people that's looking up to you to become somebody. So I think that's a disservice to the community and to society.
So no, I'm not gonna ask it. I understand. Never. Huh?
No, I'm open. Go
So
ahead.
okay, I was just wondering, like, is that because there's nobody necessarily in your family that there's outside sourcing, or do you feel like your family did not really give you the best example, and you didn't already threw that out? Because I know there's certain things my mom took that I won't take, so I get that.
I mean, well, they can only give the best example that they may have gotten, or
Right.
that they accepted. So, not to say that they don't have big aspirations of life, but the ones that I have precedes theirs, because I technically, out of my immediate family, I'm technically the first. I was the first entrepreneur. I was the first person that walked away from getting into the corporate space, or as my mother used to say, getting a real job.
Right.
I was the first one to do that. So the things that I saw was much bigger than what I can presumably say that I think that they saw. So with that being that, you almost have to look at
You
outside.
driving through a tunnel without light right now. Like there's no necessary. You're the pioneer in your family. I understand.
Yeah.
I get it.